Hi, Kate. Welcome to the Rapid Insights podcast, and thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very happy to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. So, Kate, you are the marketing director for Rapid7. You're a global organization within the cybersecurity space, and you're also a founder of Kate Carey Health as a nutrition consultant. So, I appreciate how busy you are. I'm very grateful for you taking the time out to join us on the podcast today.
Yeah, of course.
So, let's start with some background for people that don't know you. How did you get started in marketing, and what led your career into cybersecurity as an industry?
Yeah, I sort of fell into marketing to be quite honest. I was born in Australia. I grew up there, and instead of going to uni straight out of school, I just went and got a job. And I actually started working in a post office in Australia Post, and I was working in the actual post office, but they needed help in head office, which is where the marketing function was. And I was working in a franchise post office actually, and they asked me to go work in head office for 5 weeks. And I said to my boss, "Hey, can I go do this?" And my boss said no. So I quit for this 5 week, like, marketing sponsorship job. And I was still at the company 12 years later. So I sort of just fell into it. I was young, I got this opportunity, and I just really enjoyed it. And through my career, my employer then said, "Hey, we want to keep promoting you, but you need to have a marketing degree." And so they paid for my degree, and I studied marketing part-time while I worked full-time. So it was just sort of life just life just funneled me in that way. I didn't actively choose it. I just sort of ended up there and enjoyed it. So I'm still doing it now. And cybersecurity, long story short, I actually quit corporate in just before COVID, not knowing it was going to happen,
Yeah.
to go run a wellbeing retreat in Thailand. And short version is that it all fell through with the world being closed. And so I was looking for a new job, and my current boss works at Rapid7 in cybersecurity, and I'd run security campaigns at a company called Rackspace. We used to work together. So she saw I was looking, I needed something, and I jumped in, and I was in for a 6-month consultant contract, and I'm here nearly 4 years later, still here, still doing it.
It's often the case, isn't it? And other people have had on the podcast have kind of said similar things, really. Some of the interesting kind of parallels is that they've always kind of had a passion for marketing. They kind of, look at it from kind of a human perspective. That's always interesting as well. So I guess that's probably the next place to start. I'm really keen to ask you. So in terms of sort of differentiating your brand, because one of the themes that comes up on the podcast a lot is that cybersecurity is quite a complex industry, and I know that because I've worked within it in different
Yeah.
kind of realms for sort of 20 years. It can be quite a complex subject, really. So just keen to kind of get your take on that, how to differentiate the brand, I guess. And also looking at, there's so many different channels now, social media, email, webinars. What's kind of proven most effective for you in the cybersecurity space?
Yeah, do you know what? It's been same now as my last role, where I was working in like managed cloud computing. We did security there too, but it's a really hard question to answer because differentiating is really challenging, like you said. But I think it always comes back to some core things. And what I've seen work the best is actually being really consistent with your tagline and the problems that you solve. And we flip-flopped a lot at Rapid7 when I first joined. We've had like 3 different taglines, and we've landed on one now, and we stuck with it for a while. And it's allowed us to differentiate because we keep showing up with that
Yes.
same core, that core thing. This is what
Yeah.
we do, and this is why it matters to you. And I think honestly, it's trying to make the intangible tangible. So from a marketing point of view, I think it's keeping it really simple, as in, some of the best campaigns we've run has been just a really simple concept of, hey, you wouldn't like leave your house without locking the door. So why would you leave your virtual environment unlocked too? Or like, why would you even think about doing that? And so it
Mm.
just gets people thinking like, yeah, well, I wouldn't leave my car unlocked and my house open. So yeah, like my digital space is important too. So it's trying to just make it quite simple. And then, just having a really good sales team, really good experts within the business that can then handle those complex questions and topics that the prospects and customers might have. But it's about consistency. And I think the differentiator bit is about trying to bring your culture into the events and things that you do. And with Rapid7, they have this like moose mascot, and we have it at our events, and we bring the culture into the real world, and that helps us stand out and connect to the audience as well.
Got you. So some really interesting things that I picked up on there, especially around trying to, I guess, with the organisations that we deal with, kind of sell to, I guess, it's trying to get the important message across, and it's still quite challenging, isn't it? You know, to try and relate to what you're doing for cybersecurity, but in terms of getting it the importance, the level of importance. So our last two events, we've had Deborah Meaden as our headline speaker. You wouldn't normally associate with cybersecurity, but she gave some really good sort of anecdotes about, you know, it's your crown jewels. You need to be looking after your network, but people still aren't taking it as seriously as they should. And I think we all need to be kind of re-emphasizing that, you know, organizations that are selling these type of solutions. So that's really good to pick up on that. Something I wanted to ask you as well, which you mentioned towards the end in terms of having good sales teams. This is something pertinent to me because I've kind of worked in different roles within sales for the last 20 years. So, you know, in terms of the challenges between sort of driving new business and the challenging expectations that salespeople, self included, can put on marketing teams, because we want leads to be generated, etc., and you know, working alongside. How do you kind of see that relationship? Has it been kind of really good parallels between sales and marketing for you? Have you found it challenging? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, all the points you've mentioned, I can relate to those. I have to say, where I am now at Rapid7, the sales marketing relationship is really strong. I feel like partners with the sales directors. But like we have all the challenges that you mentioned. You know, it's the SDRs don't always want to get on the phone and outbound. I mean, it's not a fun thing to do. So we're trying to bring in processes and workflows that make that part easier for them. And so I think it's the effort on our behalf that they can see where we're trying to go to really quality events. We're putting more rigor around lead nurture and lead scoring, so they're getting higher quality leads and things like that. So they can see the effort that we put in. And I think it's also about being realistic that it is going to be hard work sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be challenging. We might have done the best job that we could have done, and maybe we don't get the level or quality of output that we thought we were going to get from a particular activity. But I think it's just like we have really honest, open lines of communication, and we really partner, and we just acknowledge the stuff that's hard. We're like, instead of finger pointing and blaming, it's more about, hey, like, how can we solve this? And sometimes we can't, and it's just kind of going, okay, this is going to suck for a bit this week. We've got to make these calls, but next time we'll do better. And that's helped a lot, to be quite honest.
And it's all about having that same goal, isn't it? And within the culture and kind of everybody working together. So yeah, no, it's good to kind of get your take on that. And then in terms of, I kind of going down a different question route, really, in terms of sort of the latest cybersecurity threats, trends, things like that. How do you kind of ensure that your messaging is relevant? Because things are, I know it's quite a cliche phrase, we say we live in a changing world, but it really is like that in cybersecurity. The UK government head of cybersecurity, I think was the name. The chap is doing a speech yesterday or it's today talking about new trends as well and things happening in China, etc. Just, you know, how do you kind of stay on top of that and make sure the messaging is relevant?
Yeah, I think it sort of comes back to the question before about brand and differentiation. I think it's about having a really strong why you're doing the thing you're doing. So like, you know, in terms of like Rapid7, we have our key brand message, our key USP, that we stay consistent. So it's like, stay consistent and stay stable with that, so people understand this is who you are, this is what you do, this is how you can help me. And so because these things are going to come up all the time, right? These things are going to happen in the market.
Different threats,
There's going to be vulnerabilities, all these kinds of things. But I think it's just actually having the customer and prospect understand that no matter what goes on, if you've got these key pillars running and you've got the stability and you've got our support as well as our partner support, we're going to look after you through all of that. And also just like having them know that they've got a safe space that they can come and like pick up the phone, speak to their account exec or the SDR or the BDR or whoever. I think we're really good at that. So it's more about making sure they've got that foundation, really good health within their security environment to weather the market fluctuations and the things that happen, because even with AI and all of that, it's just becoming more and more complex.
It really is. Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I can tell you guys at Rapid7 are sort of that trusted advisor, and you're there to kind of help and be the expert and someone to lean on. So that's really good. And that kind of rings true in the messaging that we're talking about now. So I guess the final question really, Kate, is, so if someone was starting out today in your shoes, how would they build a successful career like yours?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say to, like, wherever possible, to try and work in an industry or for a company where you're passionate about what they're selling and what they're doing, so something that lights you up. But I'd say honestly, the success that I've had in my career has actually been, it's been the people that I've worked with and the teams that I've worked with. I've not achieved anything in isolation or on my own at all. Our company I worked at for a couple of years, but just, it wasn't a great place to be, and nothing really moved. And so I left there and I joined another organization that just, the people were brilliant and we teamed really well together. So I just say, try and work in an area you're passionate about, and try and find a company where the people are your kind of vibe, your culture, and that's what ends up being fun. Like, I love coming to work because I love the people I work with. So even if we're having a bad day, we can still have a laugh. So like, we work hard, but we also don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think that's just really helped. And not to get too, I think your point about complexity with security and all the things happening, like, try not to get too sidetracked by all the new tools and systems and processes. Just like, come back to the basics, those good relationships with sales, really driving the problems that you solve at the forefront. This is what we do and this is why it's good for you, and that stayed consistent through my whole career and really helped.
That's brilliant. Really wise, lived experience there, which I think is great, and I think our listeners will take a lot from that. Thank you very much, Kate. Well, that brings us to the end of the Rapid Insights podcast interview with Kate Carey. Thank you very much, Kate, for joining us. Appreciate your time.
It's been great. Nice to connect.